And we're live.
We're back. The masses have been begging us, and they've been in the streets. They've been wondering where the fuck we've been.
I'm telling you, the masses are missing out. Make sure you find the video feed, because Colin's got more hair than I've seen him with in a decade.
It is getting pretty long.
I'm liking it. It's not a critique. I like it.
Yeah.
Yep. I told Matt earlier, on top it's about 4 months. So definitely longest, probably since like COVID, early COVID. I let it go a little bit, but yeah, I'm probably not gonna go full fro, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
One can only hope. As the only one of the 3 people on this podcast who have never had a fro.
And who is genetically unable to grow a fro. There's only 2 kinds of white people who can grow fros, and that's Italians and Jews. So it's a well-known fact.
I might have a little Italian in me, probably not. But
it's a certain percentage. I don't know what it is that you need to get those poofy curls, but
they would look good on you, though, Matt. You got a good face.
I really don't have a neck. I just have kind of just an extension. Like, I don't know how that would look. I don't know if it would balance out the rectangleness of my head, or
it might. I'm trying to picture it. It's I think it could look pretty good.
I mean, yeah. I have a blockhead. Like, it's like you can't. I don't say that. I say that not with pride, but with a certain amount of matter of factness. I just have a blockhead.
You do. It's just the way it is. Yep.
So, Kyle, you had like what looked like a big glass of
had a whole
wine or sangria, or is it magnesium juice?
It's sangria.
Yeah, it's not alcohol, because I'm getting over being sick still, and I was like planning all day. I was good, and my congestion, I think it's because of the weather. Honestly, it was so good today that I think I have a little bit of allergies from some of the things probably started blooming outside. So I am drinking a seltzer, and non-alcoholic seltzer, and I put Mio in it. So
okay. Yeah. I don't know if that was like some of the special.
It looks nice.
Thank you.
Magnesium stuff that.
No, I don't like the flavor of all that stuff. Like, Toddy was even like, you can take one of some kind of pop thing. It's like the healthy soda,
Oleo pop or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and I tried one like a couple weeks ago, and honest to God, it tasted sweeter to me than like a Coca-Cola did.
I haven't tried any of them, so I'm judging this without any experience. But yeah, all of we're healthy soda now. I was like, no, it's not healthy. It's still soda. Yeah. Like, you put some better ingredients in it. Not saying that it's not better or higher quality, but it's still soda.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, like the idea, like when you said you didn't like the flavor of it, all I could think is like, yes, I don't like the flavor of magnesium. Like, But anyway, Ethan, what do you got? You have your Dresden Files mug.
I
goblet.
Do. As always, my Stein. And Matt, I don't know. I should have checked with you to see if this is one I should have drank fresh. Consumed fresh. This is one of the ones that Matt sent around the holidays. Human Robot, Forest Brothers, Baltic Pilsner, and Matt, I was going to ask you. Well, number one, should I have had it fresh? It's like 2 months old.
You're okay.
I figured a Pilsner isn't as big of a deal. The art is really cool and interesting. Do you happen to know? I know my camera sucks. You don't know the story, do you?
No. The only thing I know about that beer, and the reason I bought it, that's one of the last packaged beers I bought. I was telling Colin I haven't bought beer in over a month in the package form, which is great.
Holy shit! Wow.
But that's a collab with a brewery called, I'm going to butcher this, Pohjala.
I was wondering, it's like down in this rectangle down here, and I was wondering, I was going to say Pohjala.
Yeah. They're Estonian. It's an Estonian brewery. And the only reason I know them, they make a lot of barrel-aged beers and like stouts and barley wines that are, really, really well regarded. And they came over they were in the United States for something, and they decided to do a collaboration with Human Robot, but it was a Pilsner. So when I first went to buy it, I thought the menu said Baltic Porter.
Oh, okay.
It was a Baltic Pilsner, so it's still good.
Yeah. Not what you were expecting.
But yeah, so it's an Estonian brewery. I'm trying to think. They make a coconut barrel-aged coconut porter that's really, really good.
Out of Estonia, really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I've had a couple red wine barrel-aged beers from them. I used to get them in Cincinnati. Like again, they've got a reputation as a very good high gravity beer brewer.
Okay, I just figure coconut is I think of that as like a hot climate, tropical kind of thing. So it's funny to think of an Estonian brewer, But yeah, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up because I'm curious. Because the reason I ask, so Forest Brothers, kind of a cool name, but specifically the picture, it looks like a man and a woman, but they look like they're in, like they could potentially be wearing sort of like rebel attire, like they kind of, and the woman looks like she's kind of holding a flag, and I don't know, they look like they might be holding weapons. Like it looked like it might have some sort of historical or political connotation or something. But it's nice. It's okay, Matt. So it tastes good. It's really nice. Really like nice, crisp and clean, like exactly what we want from a pilsner. There's a weird smell though, and I get this sometimes with pilsners. I don't know if it's because it's 2 months old. Do you know what I'm talking? I'm gonna see if I can describe it, but maybe you already know what I mean. It's like musty. There's like a musty smell, but then when you taste it and you drink it, like nothing tastes musty. Like it just tastes nice and clean and fresh. But
no, I know. Musty is probably actually a very good way to describe it. I don't know how. I don't know if that's a product of the fermentation or the hops they use, right? Because you're going to get some kind of you're going to get noble hops, or you're going to get like the Central European hops, like your Saaz hops, and a lot of pilsners from the Pilsen region. So you're going to get some of these hops known for bitterness and grassiness, and that musty farm type flavor, compared to the new world hops that are all tropical fruit oriented. So I shouldn't even said noble hop, but it's like a Central European traditional hop.
Looks like on this one, if the untapped blurb is to be trusted, they used Motueka, and Calista, both modern varieties bred from Czech and German heritage, though. So, yeah, kind of interesting. But because I've noticed that with other like pilsners and like kind of these, your crisp German beers, lagers, and whatnot. I've noticed that before. That like weird musty smell, and it can be a little off-putting, but if you get past that, then it actually like tastes good. But the smell is kind of strange. So anyways, thank you for sending it. It's yummy.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I've got I'm gonna also butcher the pronunciation from it's a collaboration between Evil Twin Brewing and Equilibrium Brewing called Barrel Aged Huga Time.
Oh, I think it's Huga or Hauga. Something.
Which I looked it up. It just means like comfy time.
Yeah, well, there's like a whole thing. There was a whole movement. It was in vogue, this term, a few years ago. It's like a Scandinavian thing, but it's more than just comfy time. It's like in their culture, I believe, it's like a whole concept. It's like a whole thing, beyond just like a term for a mood or something. Like it's like a bigger thing than that. Okay. It's kind of interesting, but I don't remember all the details, but I do remember it was kind of like in the public consciousness for a while a few years ago.
Well, this is a very comfy stout. It's aged 2.5 years in barrels. It's got marshmallows, honey, and macadamia nuts in it.
Interesting.
Now, honestly, though, I was hoping for a little bit more macadamia nut, but didn't really get it. So it's still good. It's still toasty. Definitely not. I'm betting this is a lot stronger than it tastes. I have to look up how strong it is, but
yeah. I will say, speaking of dark beers, that So when was it? I guess last weekend, we went to Boulder, and because Yulia had a conference thing there, and we decided to like make a night of it, and then we stayed over and we had like a friends thing the next day, so we had like a little Boulder weekend, right? And we went to a brewery, a newer one that just started like last year, I think, or something, very young still, and got a flight, and it was solid, and it was in the middle of a snowstorm. Frankly, I should not have driven to Boulder in this because they do not take care of the roads here the way they do where we are from. Um, and so even the main roads were not so good. They were pretty rough, and then the side streets hadn't even been touched. It was fucking ridiculous. Anyways, somehow we made it. We made it to this brewery. We made it to dinner. We made it to my uncle's house. Anyways, we got into this brewery, right? And normally I'm going to get like a hazy and a sour if there is one. They didn't have any sours, I don't think, but they had some IPAs. But I was like, fuck, it's this like big snowstorm and shit. I don't want an IPA. Anyways, I got a porter as part of the stout, and those some will remember, Matt certainly will, that there was a time approximately 11, 12 years ago
Eddie Fitz.
where all I would Eddie Fitz, where all I would drink was stouts and porters. And then now it's been years. I mean, it's been years since I've like had them, except for maybe the occasional Guinness, like a couple times a year, if that. Anyways, I got a porter for the first time in a really long time, and this porter wasn't exceptional. So honestly, but it was fine. It was nice. It was good for the snowstorm, but just, maybe my dark beer taste buds are coming back. And so maybe on the pod, because as of now on the pod, Matt is pretty much the only one, because I don't think Kyle does dark too much these days. So maybe I'll start doing dark beers too occasionally. We'll see.
Darn. Well, I gotta make sure I keep digging through. I did want to ask you, what do you think of the Zen?
The who?
The Zena, the Three Fountain beer.
Oh yes, that one. Sorry, I forgot that was its like specific name. It was really good. Okay, so let's give the quick context to everybody. So Matt, as like a special one for the holiday package, sent us a Three Fountain, and they're out of Belgium, right? Three Fountain.
Yep.
A Three Fountain, I guess what would we call it? A lambic?
It's in the
sour, in the sour family, right? If we were talking more just in a less pretentious way, right, we would probably just say sour and not worry about lambic. But in any case, Three Fountain, I mean, really highly regarded, right? I mean, world renowned as far as it goes, right? And so Matt sent us a special one, knowing that we both love sours, and this one, Zen or Zena or however you pronounce it, was barrel aged, I believe, in sherry barrels.
Yep.
If I'm remembering correctly. Now, those who haven't had sherry before, has a very distinctive flavor, and you got some of that in this beer. It was really interesting. Like, it was unique. Like, I mean, I've never tasted another beer. I'm sure there are other beers who have been aged or mixed with sherry in some way, but this is the only one I've ever had. So it was like, for me, truly unique in that sense. So it was really good. Yeah, it was like really awesome to get to try that. So thank you for sending it.
Yeah, that's kind of their calling card, their most famous beer, and they'll do riffs on it, they'll do variations of it, but that was the one that they are highly regarded, but that is their kind of pinnacle beer. So I've got one too in the basement that I want to try.
Yeah, and you haven't had it before, right? Will this be your first time having it once you open that bottle, or have you had it?
I had the original. I had a very, very, very generous friend bring it to a beer share back in the day.
Yeah. Do you remember if that one was with sherry or different?
Yeah, it was sherry.
It was sherry, okay.
And that was, shout out to Joby, if you're listening, Joby. That was really, really special as well, because that was incredibly, incredibly hard to get. It was one of the ones where, like, he shows up and he says, "Oh, well, I only brought one to share tonight," and he pulls it out and you go, "What the fuck?" Like, that is like a beer I never thought I would drink, right? Like, and everyone who wants to do a dick swing at a beer share will have a beer. Like, I had one of those a couple times later. I pulled out that I think I may have talked about a Kentucky brand brunch stout from Toppling Goliath that, like, oh, I guess I got one of these, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" Like, oh my god, So anyway,
oh man,
but yeah, so I'm getting through my collection, working to move as little of it as I can, which is tough because some of the last bottled beer I did buy, I found a honey hole for some Cantillon beers. So I've been able to purchase a couple Cantillon, which is another really highly regarded Belgian brewer. And it's like, oh man, I've never seen this on the shelf before. Oh shit. Like I'm trying to buy less beer, but damn it. Okay, I'll buy this one. So
yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what I have next time we pod. I'll pull something else out of there.
Nice. Sweet. Should we get to Colin's list?
Yeah.
Can we start with Saquon Barkley?
I was going to say, can we skip Saquon Barkley?
we should start with Sasquatch.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Colin. Go ahead.
Well, people who have listened to this podcast, it's no shock to them. Two things, I think. One, I'm a huge Saquon Barkley fan, maybe one of the biggest. And two, I have very quietly quit the New York Football Giants. Year over year over year, I've watched less and less and less of their football. I don't know.
Football.
Yeah, exactly. That's why.
Yeah. I guess that's being generous. It probably would have went this way anyway, even if Saquon never got drafted by the Giants. Just the way of life and whatever. But I definitely think I was hurt. It sounds so weird to say it, but I was hurt even more by the fact that the Giants had Saquon for all these years, only put together that one run, and were just atrocious pretty much the entirety of his tenure there. And so when he signs with the Eagles this past offseason, I pretty much said to myself, I probably won't watch any Giants games, and that ended up turning into I'm not going to watch the NFL at all this season. And if I hadn't gone for a birthday gift from my dad to the Giants game in Atlanta, where they got blown out and maybe shouldn't even have played that game anyway, I literally would have went the entire season without seeing a single live snap. Now I watched Saquon highlights every single week. But I never watched anything live until so this is still true. The first TV snap I've seen all season was this past Sunday. I turned on the Eagles and who the fuck were they playing? Oh, the Commanders. Shout out to Hannah. And the Commanders I think got the ball first. The Eagles get a stop on defense. So offense comes out into the field. First snap for Saquon Barkley. I'm at the time writing an article because Jim Knowles, the news of him becoming the new defensive coordinator at Penn State had just leaked. And so I'm getting that for Yard Barker. And I look up and I see Saquon take the handoff. I see him accelerate. I see him spin, and I just stood up with my laptop and I was like, oh, like I was rooting for the Eagles. And I mean, it felt so good to cheer for him. Like, I am just so fucking happy for the season that he's had, and proving all the haters, all the doubters, once and forever. I hope we can just shut them all up and say he was never going to do this for the Giants because they could not provide him with even a competent offensive line during his 6-7 years with the team. But to see him, he's going to finish probably top 3 MVP behind Allen and
Jackson.
Who?
Lamar
Yeah,
Jackson.
Lamar. Yeah. I was like, why am I? Lamar's going to win it. He's going to his first Super Bowl, obviously, and it's just so nice to. He just seems so happy too.
Yeah,
I think was the big thing, and
now I have to say, maybe not everyone would have scored a touchdown on that handoff. But that should have been at least a 20 to 30 yard run for any that. And I guess what I'm getting at is the difference. Right. So the stat that I love to throw in Colin's face. So I will give you credit now as because I used to always find examples of other backs that were good, despite they would measure basically when was the first time a running back got touched, like, and so I'd throw like Nick Chubb or Derrick Henry out there. It's like, see, like other backs can get touched in the backfield and still big positive yards, but Saquon was regularly on that list, right? Like he'd have kind of you'd see him on average get hit 1 yard in the backfield, and I think the stat this year, like the time to first touch for him this year, is something like 2 1/3 yards. Which is mind-boggling, right? So he's got like a net 3.5 yards difference now that he can see the play and actually pick his spot to accelerate.
Right,
and that's especially with zone block schemes, right? That's important, right? The whole point of the zone block is to slow play as long as you can until, like, basically you have a zone. You don't have a hole, you have a zone, and the hole's going to open up somewhere in there. So you slow play until you see the hole, and then you accelerate. And, like, having him have that ability to do that, like, you're seeing the dividends this year. The other thing I want to say, just to give some credit, like, this is what Colin is 7th year in the league, 8th year in the league.
Yeah, 2018 was his first year.
Yeah. So to see the marked jump in his stats this late in his career, late. Now I say late, meaning
late for a running back, though.
For an NFL running back, yeah. Again, just shows, like, I revel in the fact that every additional yard and touchdown he scores just makes the Giants look worse and just incompetent. Right, and you point at, like, look at some of the other players like get away. I'm pointing at Xavier McKinney, right? Has like the second most interceptions in the NFC this year, or something like that, for the Packers. And they didn't sign him, but yet they dumped 140 million or whatever on DJ's. Like, and then they can't even stick with their they bench him this year, and
isn't it
like it's the organization?
It's Brownsian, Colin. It's Brownsian.
Yeah.
It is Brownsian.
Yeah, they're in very dangerous area right now. Like the things that they have done could set them back, decades. Now, of course, Giants fans know this. We weren't alive, but apparently the 1970s were a horrendous decade, and they came out of it pretty well, on the other side. But football was totally different then, and it's just harder to win. It's harder to develop. It's harder to get guys and keep them together and whatever. And Joe Schoen just is not the dude. Maybe Dabble's a good coach. I don't know. I don't really have a strong opinion, but Joe Schoen, he needs to go. Like, he's a terrible general manager. He's just as bad as Gettleman was, and so they've had a terrible, terrible, awful general manager now for over a decade. It's just, it's decimating.
It's sad, right?
Yeah.
Like, you expect this of the Jets. You expect this of the Browns, right? Like,
right.
Which, again, shout out to all my Browns fans there, but like you reap what you sow there with Deshaun, and I also credit to a lot of my former Browns friends who, like, said fuck this and just decided they weren't going to have anything to do with it anymore. So
isn't it? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, I'm sure if the Giants, inevitably, when they have a good season, turn it around, whatever, like, I'll jump on the bandwagon. I think it's hard to like fully separate yourself from something that you loved, like when you were a kid, and whatever. But I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I won't. I don't know. It's definitely weird. I mean, I was rooting for Saquon. I definitely was not rooting for the Eagles, but I was like, this is cool. Yeah. So
yeah.
I want to splice that together. I was rooting for the Eagles. As I took over my new plant, I made sure to tell everyone that I'm a Packers fan, but I've rooted for the Eagles in the past because I liked Donovan McNabb, and that got me some cred. So
there you go. Yeah, nice. Yeah. I was just going to say that it's really interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. When was the last Super Bowl the Giants won? Was it 2011 or 2012?
2011 season. So
Yeah, so 2012, January of 2012 or February of
February.
2012.
Yep.
Okay. So we're talking about basically 13 years then to the day. And to me, and I assume to you guys, 13 years ago doesn't seem that long ago. I mean, we were in our young 20s, we had like just been in college or we're still in college or whatever. Like, to me, I still kind of remember those days vividly. It doesn't seem that long ago. Point being, when we were growing up, I mean, I know that I think the 90s and maybe the early 2000s were a mixed bag, but I think the Giants were always at least good some of the time, right? And they went to the Super Bowl that year, 2000, lost to the Ravens, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But the Giants were like, a solid franchise, a competent franchise. Always there were like some really good players. There were always some winning seasons, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, there was that really nice run with Eli and Tom Coughlin, right? In the 2 Super Bowls, blah, 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 blah. And now, 13 years later, like you guys are saying, complete fucking laughingstock, complete embarrassment. It's just horrible. And then it's basically like everything has flipped. I mean, it's the Commanders that were just in the NFC title game and had a great season and have this amazing young quarterback who looks to be like him. He might be a superstar. The Bills have been, despite the fact that they can't get past the Chiefs, they have been like the class of the NFL for several years now. I mean, they're like one of the top fucking franchises in the NFL for several years. Those teams were the fucking laughing stocks for like 20 years of our lives. And it's just so crazy how it like just completely changed.
Not just that, you've got Bills players that are like proud to be in Buffalo. Like that was always one of the big things. Like no one wanted to go to Buffalo, right? Like
yeah,
no one wanted to be there. It was snowy and it's a big town. Like no, like people are proud to be there. Like people are part of the community. You see, again, Bills fans are nuts, but you see the Bills Mafia supporting charities. You see people that are active in the community. Like, and it's like, what happened?
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, no, it is great, and I have to say, like, when we were younger, because where we're from, right, in Syracuse, maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like Colin and I, as Giants fans, were actually in the minority. Like, people in Syracuse area, if they were a fan of a New York State, obviously Matt is a different thing, but people were generally a Giants, Jets, or Bills fan. But I feel like where we're from, it was a majority Bills, and so I used to think, you disagree, Matt?
I always would say it was, when I joke with people, I say it was like 50-50 Giants, Bills, and no one was a Jets fan.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough.
Like I knew one Jets fan, and it was my aunt.
Yeah.
That's the only Jets fan I knew. Like
Steve Just was a Jets fan. He used to love
was he really?
Wayne Corbett, the tight end.
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
I remember that name. Wow. So, I used to always like laugh at all of our Bills fan friends and blah, blah, blah. Now I feel bad. And now I'm actually kind of like, I'm rooting for the Bills. Like I was sad that they didn't beat the Chiefs, and I'm like, I'm happy for the Bills. I'm happy for a smaller upstate New York City that's having all this success. And it doesn't hurt that Buffalo is the home to two of the greatest culinary inventions of all time. Of course, the chicken wing, the fried American chicken wing with buffalo sauce, right? Buffalo wing. And the lesser known, but possibly superior, beef on weck.
I was going to say, is he going beef on weck with this? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah. That's my favorite sandwich of all time is a beef on weck.
Man, I'm mad I never got you to the Whip Tavern when you were up here to get their beef on Kimmelweck. So
in up there, as in like Philly or Cleveland?
In Philly, right.
In Philly, okay.
There's an English pub out in the middle of nowhere in the middle of a farm field called the Whip.
An English pub, and they do a beef on weck.
Yep, the beef on Kimmelweck, and it's supposedly really, really good.
Okay, well, I'm sure I'll come at some point, so we'll, again, and so we'll go.
I'm moving.
Well, but you're still going to be in the Philly area.
Yeah, but this place is going to be like an hour and a half from where I'm moving to.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Because you're going to be close to Trenton in the new place, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like north, pretty far north of Philly.
My new plant's close to Trenton. I'm going to be almost like directly north of Philly. So
okay.
Inside the 276 belt, but like half an hour from work, so half an hour from New Jersey, half an hour from King of Prussia mall area. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah, nice. Anyways, what Kyle, let's hit as much of your list as we can before we gotta go. What's next?
Well, let's go baseball.
Fuck Scott Boras.
I love Scotty.
He's getting what he deserves.
Well, I think he's had a decent off season. Yeah, I would say better than last year.
Yeah,
but like seriously, one of the biggest things I have the list right here. So I looked last night when we said that we were definitely doing this tonight. Last time we podcasted was December 12th, and Soto had just signed very recently. Max Fried. There was a lot of activity happening at the time, and we were like, okay, we'll come back to you next time, and we'll have some updates, yada yada. I'm looking at the ESPN tracker of notable, quote unquote, free agency signings. I mean, the biggest one, maybe outside of Teoscar Hernandez, is Corbin Burns.
Yeah, that's
that happened all the way on December 28th. So more than a month ago. Today is Wednesday, January 29th, and that was a big one. The Giants swung and missed again. The baseball Giants swung and missed again on somebody they should have gotten probably. But we sit here right now. I was just looking about 5 minutes ago because I wanted to make sure we didn't miss anything. And Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso, both Boris clients, are still unsigned, and there is drama, if you want to say, between the two of them and their former teams and what's going to end up happening. But I'm just like, what is going on? 'Cause, I mean, they Bregman in particular is somebody that take away the cheating scandal, just be objective. Like if you need a third baseman on your team, at least for the next couple of years, he's going to be pretty good probably. He's 30, and he'll probably age out in a few years after that, but he's got a couple of good years left. Alonso, there's some more concerning things I think with him. If he's just a home run hitter, but it's like, what? Still, at the end of the day, what is going on with these guys, and how are the best players every single year in free agency like dragging out into February now? It's the weirdest thing.
And they both have gotten really, well, what seems to me to be really good offers. I can't remember the specific year and dollar amounts, but I know I have seen some of the offers they've gotten, and they seem reasonable to me. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, there's more details we don't know about, Flyers or whatever, but I am curious what they're holding out for or what Boris is holding out for. I mean, I don't. Maybe they both are looking for like 10-year deals. I think the max I saw was maybe 6 or 7.
Right. I think Bregman's at what, like 6 and 180, and
which seems like a pretty good fucking deal. I mean,
for a 30-year-old third baseman.
Yeah, but he's not Machado. He was amazing. I just double checked to look it up because I couldn't remember.
His best year was 2019. That's pre-COVID.
He was amazing pre-COVID twice, 18 and 19. Other than that, he has been, by Baseball Reference numbers, a 4 to 5 win player, which is great. That's an all-star player, perennial. That's great. He is not a perennial MVP player. He did it twice, and frankly, that was probably because of the fucking trash cans and shit and the juiced ball in 2019. So, frankly, he's good, but I wouldn't be holding out for Machado money if I was him. I mean, I get it. He wants to do what he wants to do. Let me look at Machado. I guess Machado has just done it longer at this point. He's a little older, but I don't know. With Bregman, it seems unrealistic to me. And then Alonso, yeah, I mean, he's kind of a one-trick pony.
He's got a 3-year offer on the table, but I think I heard that what he wants for 3 years and what the Mets are offering for 3 years are vastly different.
Yeah,
that's what I heard too.
And the thing with Alonso that's tough, and I know this is kind of typical for anybody, but like his best year by a pretty fair margin was his rookie year when he was 24, and now he's 30, and it's hard to think he's going to replicate that. And
yeah,
granted,
at least Bregman brings you like defensive value.
yeah, exactly.
Alonso gives you nothing except pop.
But just guys, pop. Alonso won the home run derby twice.
I mean, I wish, huh?
I'm imagining Boris saying that in a negotiation.
Yeah, that would be really funny.
And that makes me feel better.
I wish well to both of them, right? Like, I would rather they get paid than owners, collude and be stingy or whatever. So, like, I hope they get good deals, for them or whatever. But I also think, like, they aren't spectacular. Like, they're not top tier players, I don't think. They're like second and third tier players,
Yeah. Alonso's 162 average WAR for 160 is 3.8.
Yeah, which is like good. It's absolutely good, but it's it's not amazing. And again, like Collis, I mean, he's a first baseman, and as far as I know, he's not a great like Christian Walker. We know has been like the best defensive first baseman in the league for several years now. Like we know, even as a first baseman, he's kind of giving you some value. Alonso, maybe he's solid, but like it's hard to give much value as a first baseman unless you're really, really, really good. Other than that, yeah, he's got the power, which is great, and a lot of teams do need that. But I don't know. I would think the Mets would want to keep him just because I feel like he's kind of beloved there, and like if you have, and Steve Cohen's got the money, I would think with like Lindor, Soto, Alonso, and then if Mark Vientos ends up being what it seems like he might be able to be based on last year, I mean, you've got like a really impressive foursome right there for the next 2-3 years at least. But who knows?
Even Steve Cohen has a limit to what he wants to spend.
Yeah.
But you know who doesn't? The Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now.
Transition?
Right now. Should we... Were the Dodgers on the list, Kyle?
No, but we can talk about them if you want.
Well, I just think it's funny. I mean, we've been obviously talking in the text thread a lot over the last month about this because every time the Dodgers sign somebody new, and of course Sasaki was the big one, but every time the Dodgers sign somebody new, there's this like uproar across baseball about the Dodgers and how much they spend and how they're making, it's just not fair, blah, 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 blah. I, of course, am with Colin and Molly Knight and others of that ilk. Like, all of these owners have the money to spend. They are making, what was it called? Like tens of millions in passive income a year. Like
it's ridiculous amount of money.
Like they're making a choice not to spend on players because they just want to make a lot of that passive income. I get it. They're fucking businessmen. That's how they got to be where they're at. But like, I'm really sick of the excuses. And Kyle, you specifically, sorry, and then I'll stop. And then Matt, you go. Kyle, you specifically had sent us that like screenshot of, I think somebody had commented on your Yard Barker piece, and he was complaining about like the Pirates and shit. I am so sick of it specifically with that because Pittsburgh is not some like tiny city. Pittsburgh is a big major city. It can afford stuff. Mm-hmm. It has a world-class orchestra, for God's sake, that pays really, really, really well. Okay, that is competitive with the New York Philharmonic, okay, with the Chicago Symphony, with the Los Angeles Philharmonic. Pittsburgh is not some tiny little fucking city. So, granted, that's a specific one, but I'm so sick of those people being like, wait. All of these owners are so unfathomably rich, they can spend more if they want to. They just choose not to. Just, why can't we accept that?
Well, like, but, I don't want to say understand it, but like, everyone knows that the owner of the Pirates is kind of a douche nozzle, right? Like, kind of like the owners that, like when Laurie was the Marlins and when the Rays, like everyone knows that he's just extracting money, right? Yeah. And
well, the Dodgers just had that, didn't they? Wasn't it like the Wilpons or whatever? Like they did have that even recently, but
what kind of made me just lose all my patience. Not that I had much. Tom Ricketts coming out, like fuck you, Tom Ricketts. You're worth almost $2.5 billion, and you're crying poor that you're just trying to break even, but yet you're throwing around all sorts of money to redevelop all the land around, buy up and redevelop the land around your stadium, right? Like,
and it's fucking Chicago.
Remember Ricketts was the one that, didn't like the people across the street viewing his games for free on the rooftop. So he bought them all. He owns all those rooftop houses now, where people can go and watch the game. Like, he bought them all.
Yeah, like, what a fucking tool.
I'm going to quickly Google that because now I'm doubting. Like, this beer, guys, was 17%. So I'm just going to double check. But
oh wow, 17.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah. Okay. While you're double checking that, Chicago. So like, yeah. So he's worth multiple billions or whatever. But also, like, Chicago is not a city where you can make that argument. Chicago is what, the third? It's like a top 5 biggest city in the country. Is it third, Kyle? Like, that is just so fucking dumb to be bitching and moaning if you are owning a team in the city of Chicago. Now, the White Sox, that's a different thing. We know that Reinsdorf is just like a fucking moron or whatever, right? It's like, it's one thing if you're just a fucking moron. But in Ricketts' case, it sounds like he's trying to pull one over on us. You know what I mean? And it's like, dude.
But they're doing the same thing that owners have been doing for the entirety of baseball's existence.
Yeah. And Ricketts did, Ricketts bought almost all the properties that had a sight line into the stadium and then started monetizing that too. So
what a fucking asshole.
Yeah, and he's been trying to extend his influence and control further into Wrigleyville. So don't pull that bullshit, Tom. Like, you have plenty of money, Mr. Billionaire.
Yep.
Yeah, so go ahead. Keep trading for, cornerstone franchise pieces like Kyle Tucker, and then, take him to a very acrimonious arbitration battle. Go ahead. Do that, Tom. See how well it does you.
God, terrible.
Well,
we got to wrap up, don't we? Pretty shortly.
Colin's going to want to talk about Penn State, right? Come on. We can talk about Penn State.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would love to talk about Penn State, but Matt's usually like, Penn State.
I mean, I was saving that for like halfway through when you were talking about Penn State.
Fair enough.
As the only one in this room that lives in Pennsylvania.
True.
Yeah.
I have lived in Pennsylvania, so.
When you were like 3 years, well, I guess you did live for a couple of years in college. Yeah, all right, fair enough. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. There will come a day soon. Residency.
Yeah.
There will come a day soon when I have lived longer in Pennsylvania than you have.
Oh, I'm pretty
Aren't
sure.
You already there? Yeah.
I mean, I've only been here since 2021.
Is it only since 2021?
Yeah.
You're teetering on, if you haven't already passed. I can't remember how long we were there, like when I was young before we moved, but I'd have to ask my parents to do the math on that. But
so why can't Penn State win the big game, Kyle?
Well, that's gonna be a whole. Really, what I want to talk about is you guys obviously have never experienced. I don't know anything like this before, but there is legitimate hype for Penn State to be the national champion like this coming year. Like, I'm talking about ESPN put out their projections yesterday, I think it was, or 2 days ago. Penn State is who they picked to win the national championship. There are people who are ranking them in their way too early, preseason rankings number one. They're bringing back Drew Aller's coming back, Nick Singleton, Ketron Allen. What's that?
What's his name? I call him Megatron. Ketron?
Yeah, Ketron Allen. Yep.
Ketron.
Yep. The two running backs coming back. They have a bunch of defenders coming back. Andy Koldnicki's going to be in his second year as offensive coordinator. They just took Ohio State's defensive coordinator and brought him over, gave him a $2 million pay raise to take over their defense because Tom Allen left to come down to Clemson. They are loading up in a way that has obviously never happened in my adult life, and the expectations are to a place that I have also never experienced in my adult life. I was talking to Toddy about this. I was like, I don't exactly know how to handle it. Like, I want to be excited, but I'm worried about if they lose 2 games before October is over, and just flame out, like I don't know how I'm supposed to, because at least in the past it was just like, it's kind of like it is with maybe most of the teams that you would root for in any sport. It's this like um I don't know the exact word, but it's not realistic that you're gonna win it, but you like have this feeling that maybe this could be the year, type thing, and you're like holding on to that hope as long as things go well, and then when it doesn't, you're like, all right, well, I guess this is the expected outcome anyway. Whereas like now this time they're supposed to win it. It's crazy. I was obviously bummed when they should have won that semifinal game against Notre Dame.
God was on Notre Dame's side, though.
Riley Leonard.
That's what Riley Leonard says.
Yes,
so.
yes.
Jesus.
While California was burning away.
Yep. Well, if you ever want to, okay, real quick aside, whenever you hear people make this kind of argument, whether it's in sports or anything else, so look this up if you're curious. Riley Leonard, is he their quarterback, Call, or what is he?
Yes, he was their quarterback.
The Notre Dame quarterback, he had this quote about how he like truly believed that God was like, was the reason that Notre Dame made the finals and blah, 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 right? That God wanted them to win in all of this. If you ever hear this kind of argument from anyone about like, oh, God was on my side, God wanted it to happen, blah, 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 blah. The best argument that I know of, go and listen to the Bob Dylan song, With God on Our Side. Go listen to that song or listen to those lyrics, and you'll see how silly and easily punctured that thought process is. But anyways, continue. Yep. So Notre Dame was on God's side, or God was on Notre Dame's side, and Notre Dame beat Penn State in the semis.
Yep, and it was all 3 losses that they had this past season coulda, shoulda, been wins. They had an opportunity every single time. They lost to Ohio State, they lost to Oregon, who was number 1 at the time, and they lost in that semifinal. But it was a great season. I definitely enjoyed the hell out of it. I'm obviously so looking forward, to this upcoming season, and I'll figure out a way to deal with the hype. But it is very weird. Like I was shook when I saw that they were ranked number 1 in somebody's rankings, and then like a couple days later to see that ESPN projected them to win the national championship. I'm like,
yeah, wow,
what? This has never happened. It might not ever happen again. I don't know. So I'm trying to enjoy it. It's weird. Send me all the good vibes.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, it's exciting. Really exciting. Hopefully they can finally beat fucking Ohio State. My God.
Yeah, please. Well, like there's very few places where you'll find me supporting Penn State, but like one of them will always be against Ohio State, and you're not helping.
Why is also, it? What's Matt? Real quick, why after we all know Cleveland Matt? He's one of our favorite Matts, and 10 years in Cleveland. What's the Ohio State hate? What's the origin with it?
Is that like?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's easy to accept the annoyingness of Browns fans because they're just so earnestly like hoping. They're hopeful puppies.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And they get their world dashed every year, but they come back.
Yeah.
Versus like Ohio State fans are just like they're just so annoying. Like,
okay,
like the superiority complex there is just so annoying. And I'm not saying that Penn State fans can't be like that either. I know now a number of different Penn State season ticket holders who care more about the value that they can get for selling their RV parking pass over the actual tickets to the game.
Yeah.
And now that's like my former boss did that, and there's 2 other people that live in my neighborhood who did anyway. Versus Colin's at least Colin's got a pure heart. He's got no money tied up in season tickets. He just wants happiness.
Yep.
And if I did have season tickets, I'd be going to the game, not trying to.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's messed
millions
up.
on the dollar. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well,
cool.
It was a compact one, but we got bedtimes, and we also wanted to catch up before. So sorry to everyone, but we had things to do, and I think we will be back though, regular schedule. So
I think so.
You should hear from us in about a week and a half. And any shout outs before we go, boys?
Oh shit. I had one I was gonna do. I thought about it randomly like last week. Some like really random shout out. Fuck. It was like it had nothing to do with our actual lives, but I thought it was gonna be good. Oh damn it.
Just shout out God.
I'll shout out God. He's I'm glad he was on Notre Dame's side. It was really important to me that a Catholic institution make it to the national title game. So shout out to God.
I got a shout out, a random one, but a podcast I listened to this morning. Got a lot of time in the car now these days. Catch up on a lot of podcasts. So listen to a podcast about Mary Shane. Have you guys ever heard the name Mary Shane?
Mm-mm.
She was the first full-time play-by-play announcer for an MLB team. Female.
Yeah.
First full female. Yeah. And now
for who?
The White Sox in 1977.
Now, no shit.
A little bit of a misnomer though, because I think she ended up only doing like 60 games or something, just because of how they scheduled her, and there was a lot of stuff she did. But she decided back in the day that she wanted to be a sports writer. She quit her high school job, started doing sports writer stuff, ended up finally kind of worming her way into a beat with the teams, and of all people, she like introduced herself to Harry Carey, who used to be a White Sox announcer. Yeah. And Harry was so enthralled with her that he like invited her to the booth once, and then invited her to the booth again, and then for a third time. And then they're like, "Oh, she's kind of good. People like this." Now, granted, after he had her up there as an employee, didn't sound like he gave her all that much support. He kind of just stayed out of the way. And of course, in 1970, there was a weird kind of setup up there. There was another man who was recently hired who was kind of actively sabotaging her. But it was really interesting to hear that and hear her kind of talk through her struggles. And what was neat is they interviewed one other very famous to us female sportscaster, play-by-play announcer,
Suze.
Suze got a bunch of airtime on there, and even she talked about how the struggle she still has. And about how she doesn't feel like she belongs, but here 18 years later, I'm still here and I'm doing a good job. And I was like, you know what? Like, aside from this fact that sometimes Susan sounds like she's slurring her words a little bit, I like her voice. Like, I really enjoy listening to her. I think her and John Sterling do a good Bertina and Ernie job for for baseball on the radio, and I enjoy it a lot. So. It's kind of hard thinking back to a time when that was such like a taboo, but anyway, it was a good podcast. Yeah, it was called
cool.
1 year 1977, the Mary Shane episode. So
okay, cool. That's really cool. Nice.
Yeah, Mary Shane's rookie season.
Nice.
Okay, cool. Well, I will also shout out Suze. I love when there's a home run and she's like, "That was a real shot." Like the way her accent. It gets me every single time. every single time. And shout out to brother Jeremy. Great to see you last week. Voices was down here in Charlotte. They crushed it. It was fucking freezing at the Milestone Club, but they heated it up with a great set. And I'll
hell yeah.
I'll end it there. All right, boys. Yeah. Well, we are.
No, you are number one for now.
Too good.